Тук-тук-тук-тук, все пошло. Всем привет. Продолжаем за нашего гнома гения. В прошлый раз у нас, к сожалению, вылетело на моменте посещения лагеря. Так что я сейчас даже болтать не пойду. Я смотрим ролик. Все-таки посмотрим ролик. Придется в лагерь побазарить, раз уж мы тут оказались.
Bad dreams, huh?
Да, Бэт. Наверное, съел что-то не то.
Drank more like, as in the tainted blood, remember? You see, part of being a Grey Warden is being able to hear the Darkspawn. That's what your dream was, hearing them. The Archdemon, it talks to the Horde, and we feel it just as they do. That's why we know this is really a blight.
Архидемон — это дракон.
I don't know if it's really a dragon, but it sure looks like one. But yes, that's the Archdemon. It takes a bit, but eventually you can block the dreams out. Some of the older Grey Wardens say they can understand the Archdemon a bit, but I sure can't. Anyhow, when I heard you thrashing around, I thought I should tell you. It was scary at first for me too.
Спасибо, Алистер, это
That's
очень
what
важно.
I'm here for. To deliver unpleasant news and witty one-liners. Anyhow, you're up now, right? Let's pull up camp and get a move on.
Почему все специи открыты? Вот это вот мне очень не нравится. Леви Драйден.
You're a hard man to find. Where are my manners? The name is Levy, Levy Dryden. Did Duncan ever mention me? Levy of the coins? Levy the trader?
Ты знаешь, да?
Oh, yes, for years. Considered him a friend, I did. But here I am carrying on while you have a blight to stop. Don't want to waste your time. But you see, Duncan promised that together we'd look into something important for the Wardens. And for me. But poor Duncan's... well, no more. A tragedy it is, at that. But I know he would want his work carried on. His pledge fulfilled.
Что он тебе
My family, well, past is a bit checkered to see. Nobles look at us with disdain. My great-great-grandmother, Sophia Dryden, was the last Warden commander of Ferelden back when the Wardens were known as freeloaders. So King Arlen banished the Wardens, and he took House Dryden's land and titles.
Что произошло?
Hard to say. After King Arlen died, there was a civil war, loads worse than this one. And our family was on the run, hunted by enemies, with nary a friend in the world. But Drydens are tough. We rebuilt, became merchants, and we never lost our pride.
Расскажи, что нужно
Duncan
знать.
wanted to reclaim the old Grey Warden base, Soldier's Peak. And perhaps we'll uncover evidence to restore my family's honour along the way. Nobody's been to Soldier's Peak since the Grey Wardens were banished, but I found a way. They say it's haunted, and it's certainly dangerous. Will you help me?
Почему Дункан не помог тебе?
Darkspawn surfaced in southern Ferelden, and Duncan got plenty busy recruiting new Wardens and meeting with good King Cailan. Duncan said he would help after the Battle of Ostagar. Said there might be useful things at the peak, but he never had the chance.
Как возвращение пика поможет стражу?
Soldier's Peak is strategic and symbolic importance. Duncan said that it would be worth it right there. He also hoped to recover lost Warden history and perhaps a few old relics. No one knows what's up there now.
Ладно, я помогу.
1,000 blessings upon you, Warden. I'll mark down the location on your map. When you arrive, we'll pick our way through the tunnels together.
Ah, it's good to see you, my timely rescuer. Bodon Fedek, at your service, once again. I saw your camp and remember the kind offer that you made the last time we met. And is there anywhere safer for a poor merchant and his son to sleep? I think not. I'm perfectly willing to offer you a fine discount for the inconvenience of our presence. How does that sound? Good? Yes?
Ты идешь за нами следом?
Following you? I'm not even certain where you're going, my friend. And quite frankly, it's none of my business. Trust me when I say that my encountering you here was serendipity and nothing more. I travel a lot, so I'm bound to meet everyone on the road eventually. If you prefer, I'll take my boy and be on my way. But regretfully, you're the safest spot on this road, without a doubt.
Чем именно ты торгуешь?
Anything, everything, but all of the finest quality. No cheap trinkets here. And my boy Sandal happens to be a bit of a hand with enchantments. Oh, yes. Sadly, it also makes us a target for bandits and the like. If there were spare hands to hire as guards, I would have done so long ago.
Можете остаться.
Wonderful. Thank the gentleman, won't you, boy?
Thank you, sir.
We won't be a bother to you and your companions, I assure you. If you should need enchantments, simply talk to my boy. Otherwise, come speak with me. If there's anything I
Come
can do
speak
for
to
you,
you.
please tell me.
Что же с тобой
Well, if
случилось?
you're really interested, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to tell you. I'm originally from Orzammar, just as you are, I suspect. You don't have the look of a surface dwarf about you. I was a merchant there, too. Merchant caste. These things are in the blood, you know. You can't just leave them behind. I ran a fairly successful business. Rare artifacts, you know. Old things, grand things. The nobles loved them. Reminded them of the lost glory days, I suppose.
Наша слава не потеряна.
Well, you can think that if you wish, if that gives you comfort, but some of us prefer to look at things as they are and see the truth. But we were talking about how I ended up here, weren't we? One day, a noble woman came to my stall. She looked around for a bit and then started shrieking in dismay. Apparently, she believed that a pair of braces I had for sale once belonged to her brother. He'd been lost in a cave-in, you see, while on an expedition to clear out the Darkspawn from one of the tunnels running close to the city. They were made specially for him. They're unique, she shrieked. He stole them from my poor brother's corpse. She had me arrested on the spot, of course. Nobles, they're touchy like that.
И ты их украл.
Well, I didn't steal them. You see, I'd been paying these castless thugs to venture out into the deep roads for me. The lost tigers, they're full of things that people left behind. Sometimes you can find a treasure, something worth a little gold.
Понятно.
The noblewoman, she wasn't too happy with the theft of her brother's braces. I don't know what they planned for me, and I didn't want to find out. Bribed the guard that was watching me and took off for the surface first opportunity I got. Never looked back.
И вот ты здесь.
Yes, here I am. Now, is there anything the boy or I can get you?
Откуда взялись эти товары не из глубинных же?
Look, we don't rob people, all right? We don't take things from people that need them. The things in the Lost Tigers, what good did they do lying there? I brought them back to Orzammar, where people could look at them and remember. It's not all that different up here. There are places long abandoned by the humans everywhere. Even more now with the Darkspawn coming.
Ну, это мародерка.
People flee from the Blight with good reason, but they forget things. Things with value and meaning. They leave them behind because they're frightened and desperate. And sometimes, my boy and I, we find our way to these places before the Horde descends, and we save these things. I take them away so the Darkspawn don't get them. Is that so bad? They destroy everything they touch.
Ну, вообще реально лучше, чем
That's
это.
what I tell myself, too. Ah, these are dark times indeed. Dark times, my friend.
В своем рассказе ты не упомянул о своем
Ah,
сыне.
yes. I'm married to a fine woman back in Denerim, it's true. She'd give me a son if she could, but that's not likely to ever be. Sandal here, I found him in the deep roads years ago. Abandoned, I think, and he was never quite right in the head. I took him in, and I brought him with me when I came here to the surface. It may not be my blood, true, but I think of him as one.
We left Orzammar.
That's right, boy. Maybe one day we'll see it again.
Это реально благородно.
It's not as if I don't benefit, mind you. Turns out the boy's a natural working with enchantments. He might have even been lyrium-addled. I never thought of that before, to be honest. Happens sometimes. He can work an enchantment into just about anything, however, given some time. Could probably open his own shop, if he knew how.
Enchantment.
Well, he does seem to enjoy it, at least.
Какие слухи?
I hear that Tyr Loghain, the regent, is calling for new levies of troops. He wants to rebuild the army we lost at Astagar. Thing is, there's not a lot of spare men to be found. Out at Dragon's Peak, there's press gangs roaming around, grabbing any free man they can lay their hands on. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is.
Ладно,
I'm
покажи
sure
товары.
you'll be pleased with the goods my boy and I have collected, and with your discount.
Дискаунт. Хорошо, берем этот кауф. Аптечки всегда нужны. Что-то книги дорогие, конечно, ужас. Сейчас Бирка. Ладно, шлем. Ой-ой-ой, какие офигенные сапоги. Но я не потяну. Подарок. Блин, вот этот квест на них висит, я так понимаю, эти подарки сраные.
Are you sure I can't interest you in this hat? A pair of earrings, perhaps? A cheese knife? I'm sure you'll be...
Надо их, короче, все купить, потом продать, насколько я понял. Чик-чик-чик. Да, задание выполнено.
You and your friends are formidable folk, indeed.
Спасибо.
I'm sure...
Так, теперь этот скал обратно продаем. Мне задан провокатор 20 сил, ну, господи, как он отлично выглядит. Так. Так.
Hello.
The boy's a bit simple, but he's rather good with enchantments. One of those tranquil fellas actually called him a... what was it now? A savant. I had no idea such a thing existed.
Какого рода?
He can fold lyrium into almost any weapon or piece of armor, though naturally some of the more extravagant materials will take more lyrium than others. It's a process that some of the master smiths back in Orzammar will perform, but my boy here is just as adept at it. Isn't that right, boy?
Enchantment.
And there you have it.
Мне нужно.
Enchantment.
Как это делать только? Ну вот у нас есть лезвие, можно туда что-то вставить. Mission complete. Так, все, пойдем с Мориган поговорим. А стоп, что у меня столько всего? Что-то продать, наверное.
What do you wish of me?
Хотел бы
If you
спросить тебя
must.
кое-что. Как ты научилась менять обличье?
I was not born such. 'Tis a skill of Flemeth's, taught over many years in the wilds. The chastened have tales of we witches, saying that we assume the forms of creatures to watch them from hiding. When a child is alone and separate from his tribe, that is when we strike, dragging the young boy kicking and screaming to our lair to be devoured. A most amusing legend.
Ну, это всего лишь легенда.
So I assume. My mother has walked the wilds far longer than I. Who am I to suggest what things she has done and not done in her past? Why do you ask? Is there something specific you wish to know?
Конечно. А ты можешь принять образ других
The
людей?
form of an animal is different from my own. One may study the creature, learn to move as it does, think as it does. In time, this allows one to become as it is. I gain nothing by studying another human. I already am the same as they are. I learn nothing. So the answer is no, my human form is the only one I possess.
А кто может научить менять форму?
Anyone with sufficient will. But the act of transformation is a magical one. 'Tis a spell and thus requires a mage's talents. If you had a notion to learn such a skill for yourself, sadly, you must remain disappointed.
Много времени в обличье.
There were nights when the wilds called to me, 'tis true. You look upon the world around you and you think you know it well. I have smelled it as a wolf, listened as a cat, prowled shadows that you never dreamed existed. But my life is as a human. I am under no illusions to the contrary.
Что думают о тебе звери?
They do not shy away from me. To their senses, I believe I seem like any other of their species. As to what they think, I truly cannot say. Just as I am still human, no matter my form, they are still animals. Thus they cannot speak, even were I to ask.
Мне не доводилось
No?
слышать такой магии.
'Tis not unheard of in the remote corners of the world. There are traditions of magic outside of the circle of magi, despite what those mages would have you believe. Some of these traditions are old, indeed, passed down as carefully guarded lore from one generation to the next. The zealots of the chantry would uproot all such practitioners if they could. But as luck have it, some still exist. My mother is such a one.
Подобная магия легко злоупотреблить.
Not all apostates use the forbidden blood arts. Maleficarum do, but to condemn all who do not fall under the circle's thrall for the sake of what might be is a dangerous path to walk. There are those who look on the word apostate as meaning freedom.
Всё, что я хотел
Indeed. Have you an opinion on my abilities, then? Am I an unnatural abomination to be put to the torch?
знать. А, может привязать к шесту и защекотать.
I wouldn't advise it. But enough of such talk. Let us proceed, lest the dust gather on us.
Ну, Мориган одобряет. Мгм.
What do you wish of me? We are in camp, so 'tis as good a time as any.
Почему же ты еще здесь?
I am here because Flemeth commanded me to aid you. Why? Do you wish me to leave? I can do so if you prefer.
Ты хочешь?
If I wanted to leave, then I would go. I remain, so do not ask such pointless questions.
Ой,
What do you wish of me? We are
косяк.
in camp, so 'tis as good a time. What do you wish of me? If you must.
Ты можешь научить других?
I cannot teach you, no. But any other mages that cared to learn, yes, I could do that. Send whoever you wish my way, and I shall teach them what I can in the camp, provided they possess the will to even make the attempt.
Вот тут спеца открылась. Почему у меня все спецы открыты? Ну, чё за баг-то?
What do you wish of me? If you must.
Ты выросла в диких землях Каркари.
Why do you ask me such questions? I do not probe you for pointless information, do I?
Ты можешь
Beg
испытать
pardon
меня.
then while I jump for joy. What is it you asked if I grew up in the wilds? A curious question. Where else would you picture me? For many years it was simply Flemeth and I. The wilds and its creatures were more real to me than Flemeth's tales of the world of man. In time I grew curious. I left the wilds to explore what lay beyond, never for long. Brief forays into a civilized wilderness.
Тебя не
For the
замечаю.
most part, Flemeth taught me well. For all that I had been taught, however, the truth of the civilized lands proved to be overwhelming. I was unfamiliar with so much. So confident and bold was I, yet there was much that Flemeth could never have prepared me for.
Очень смело.
Equal parts daring and foolhardy, perhaps. Only once was I accused of being a witch of the wilds, and that by a chastened who happened to be traveling with a merchant caravan. He pointed and gasped and began shouting in his strange language, and most assumed he was casting some curse upon me. I acted the terrified girl, and naturally, he was arrested.
Быстро наш.
Men are always willing to believe two things about a woman. One, that she is weak, and two, that she finds him attractive. I played the weakling and battered my eyelashes at the captain of the guard. Child's play. The point being that I was able to move through human lands fairly easily. Whatever humans think a witch of the wild looks like, 'tis not I. Not that I did not have trouble. There are things about human society which have always puzzled me, such as the touching. Why all the touching for a simple greeting?
Представления не имею, я ж не человек.
Do not speak to me of trivialities. Your culture is not so entirely different. There were many nuances that Flemeth could never tell me of. When to look into another's eyes, how to eat at a table, how to bargain without offending. None of these things I knew. I still do not understand it all, truth be told, but then I gave up long ago any hope of doing so. When I returned to the wilds last, I swore to Flemeth that I had no intention of leaving again.
И вот ты здесь.
Yes, here I am. Well, let's get on with it before the ground opens up and swallows us, yes? Yes?
Должно быть в диких землях
At
одиноко.
times, perhaps. A world full of people and buildings and things was all very foreign to me. If I wished companionship, I ran with the wolves and flew with the birds. If I spoke, 'twas to the trees.
И как они отвечали?
Don't be foolish. I recall the first time I crept beyond the edge of the wilds. I did so in animal form, remaining in the shadows and watching these strange townsfolk from afar. I happened upon a noblewoman by her carriage, adorned in sparkling garments the likes of which I had never before seen. I was dazzled. This, to me, seemed what true wealth and beauty must be. I snuck up behind her and stole a hand mirror from the carriage. 'Twas encrusted in gold and crystalline gemstones, and I hugged it to my chest with delight as I sped back to the wilds.
Вряд ли Флемет была рада.
She was not. Flemeth was furious with me. I was a child and had not yet come into my full power, and I had risked discovery for the sake of a pretty bauble. To teach me a lesson, Flemeth took the mirror and smashed it upon the ground. I was heartbroken.
Несомненно, Флемет была права.
Beauty and love are fleeting and have no meaning. Survival has meaning. Power has meaning. Without those lessons, I would not be here today, as difficult as they might have been.
И они сделали тебя сильнее.
They did indeed. To return to your original question, perhaps my time in the wilds was indeed lonely, but such was how it had to be. I find myself at times wondering what might have become of the girl with the beautiful golden mirror, But such fantasies have no place amidst reality. Yes? If you must.
За тобой когда-нибудь охотилась?
You are very cute to ask so many questions.
Рад, что такое.
And I am glad you are so glad. My mother has been hunted from time to time, yes, by Templar fools like Alistair, which should tell you how successful they generally were. Flemeth made a bit of a game of it, in fact. The Templars would come again, and she would look at me and smile and say that the fun was to begin once more.
У вас правда не было с ним
I am
проблем?
unsure. I was too young to understand, and perhaps 'twas bravado on Flemeth's part, or perhaps she was merely amused. I will never know. Flemeth would warn them, once. 'Twas a warning they inevitably failed to heed. And then the true game began. Often Flemeth would use me as bait. A little girl to scream and run and lure the Templars deeper into the wilds and to their doom.
Конечно, приходили
Sometimes.
новые.
Eventually. Thankfully, the wilds is a vast place. Once they found us, Flemeth would simply move us elsewhere, and we would be lost within the forest once again. I did not understand the danger we faced until I was much older. I had never heard of apostates or maleficarum.
Ты не сожалеешь?
Would they
что
have regretted hurting me? I was a young child. Yet do you think they would not have gleefully held my head aloft as a trophy? There are no trials for apostates, no prisons, no mercy. There are only absolutes, so only survival matters. If the wilds have taught me anything, 'tis this. First, you must survive. Do you disagree?
Ну, есть вещи и похуже
Oh?
смерти.
I would ask what exactly, but I'm certain that would be a lengthy conversation, and suddenly I grow very weary. Enough of this talk. Let us return to the task at hand.
Что-то она пригорела.
Yes? If you must.
А Флем действительно таким, как...
Well, that depends, does it not? What does she seem to be?
Ну-ка... Человек.
Oh, she certainly was human. Once. Tell me, how much do you know of the tale? The one that the chastened still tell of my mother, to frighten
Да
them
я
into
гном,
obedience?
я не знаю. Ничего не знаю.
Ah, I see. That does explain much. I can relay what Flemeth once told me herself, and you can decide whether or not 'tis the truth, if you desire.
Ну, храпа
As the
быстрее.
tale is sung by the bards, there was a time when Flemeth was young and beautiful, a fair lass in a land of barbarian men, the desire of any who saw her.
Как давно это было?
Many centuries before this land was even named Ferelden. The tales say that Flemeth fell in love with Osen the bard and fled the castle of her husband, the dread Lord Conabar, and that he swore vengeance for her infidelity. In truth, my mother claims that 'twas Osen who was her husband, and Conabar the jealous lord who looked on from afar. Lord Conabar approached young Osen and offered him wealth and power in exchange for his lovely wife, and Osen agreed.
Но он продал жену
The
другому.
life of a bard is a poor one, and love fades in the wake of hunger. 'Twas Flemeth who suggested the arrangement. All would have been well had Lord Conabar kept his end of the bargain. But he was a foul man who bargained with coin he did not possess. Osen was led off to a field and slain, left for dead. Flemeth spoke to the spirits and learned of the deed, and swore revenge.
Нагорел с духами любимым.
Spirits first, and 'twas they who slew Conabar. Flemeth did not turn to the demon until much later. Lord Conabar's allies chased Flemeth, you see, chased her to the wilds, and there she hid. There she found the demon, and he made her strong. The legends all speak of the great hero Cormac, he who defeated Flemeth and her great army when she invaded the lowlands centuries later. All lies. You would be
Flemeth
surprised
is-
at how little my mother cares for what I or others think of her past. The truth of the matter is that there was never an invasion. As Flemeth tells it, the Chastened never raised an army under her banner, and she never fought with any warrior named Cormac. Cormac led a brutal civil war against his own people, and later claimed it was to vanquish evil that had taken root amongst the lords. Thus, he was hailed a hero. Flemeth was only attached to the legend much later. Perhaps 'twas due to the great war with the Chastened that eventually came, but Mother claims not to know how it began.
Почему же
The
Флемет
demon
так
within
долго
her
жил?
has transformed her into something else. An abomination, perhaps some would say. I know not. I only know my mother is clever, and she is part of the wilds as it is part of her. But she is no immortal. She bleeds. A blade in her heart would kill her like any other, were it lucky enough to find her.
Гена говорит, что у Флемет было много дочерей.
You ask if I have sisters. I have asked of this myself. The stories tell of many witches of the wilds after all, not just the one. And these tales existed long before I did. Flemeth refuses to speak of other daughters, if they existed. So, should I believe I am her first? I doubt that too.
А зачем ей клоняться
The
разговору?
Chastened tell of a falling out between Flemeth and her daughters. They say that one day she hunted them all through the wilds and ate their hearts. It may be true. I have never seen another witch or heard of one. Perhaps one day Flemeth will eat my heart as well.
Ты веришь ей
I do
словам?
not believe everything that Flemeth claims. Oft it seems her bitterness has coloured her memories. But on the whole, yes, I believe this tale, if not all.
Разве одержимый обычный ходячий
How
ужас?
often is this usually? Always? If not always, then when is it not true? There are more things in this world and the next than you or I could ever hope to understand. What Flemeth became is a mystery. I suspect, even to her.
Интересная история с спасением.
Flemeth tells it with far more embellishment than I, but you are welcome. Dare I ask of your own mother? Few are abominations of legend, 'tis true, but I find myself curious nevertheless.
Моя мать горько
Ah,
пьяница.
then you have my sympathies for what it is worth. Which is very little, I am certain. It matters not. Let us move on.
А чё ж ты опять не одобряешь? Что с душиловкой? -1.
Yes? If you must.
Так, тут все.
Yes? We're in camp, so 'tis as good a
Ссылать мы её не будем. Так, Стэн. Давайте со Стэном побазарим.
Why are we stopping?
Ну, как бы... Решили
There are
побеседовать.
darkspawn to be fought. Is this delay needful?
Ты в порядке?
You
чё?
are concerned. No need. I am fit enough to fight.
Расскажи мне, куда.
No.
Why?
People are not simple. They cannot be summarized for easy reference in the manner of the elves are a lithe, pointy-eared people who excel at poverty.
Ты говоришь, что ты
I
ещё-
am.
Ты когда-нибудь участвовал в
I have
войне?
always fought in war, dwarf.
Что это
My
значит?
people have been at war since the moment we set foot in the Northern Islands.
Значит, Кунари приходит с
We
острова.
do now.
А откуда это?
Somewhere else.
А поточнее?
No. I was born in Saharon. Of the land we came from, I know nothing, not even its name. I do not see how this matters. Saharon and Parvolan are distant. Ferelden and the Darkspawn are immediate.
Почему это
What a
спрашиваешь?
strange language you speak. You say hurry, where I would say duty.
Сражаться с Мором не твой.
No, it is yours, and you are chatting with me instead. As you wish.
Ой, душил.
Yes.
Что ты делал в той клетке?
sitting as you observed.
Достойный
Thank you.
ответ. Ко мне плохо
Warden,
относишься.
if I truly disliked you, I would leave. That I am still here, you may interpret however you choose.
Ты ответишь на
I
мой
did.
вопрос?
Parshera, was there anything else?
У меня
I am
вопрос.
hardly surprised.
Зачем ты пришел в
To answer a
Ферелден?
question,
Какой?
the Arishok asked what is the Blight. By his curiosity, I am now here.
Кто такой
The
решил?
one who commands the Antam, the body of the Kunari.
Он твой...
Kunari have no kings.
А что есть?
Little patience for endless questions.
Почему Кунари так беспокоит?
Why do
Может,
you?
это угроза Розамара?
Is it? If the Darkspawn are attacking Ferelden, doesn't that mean there are fewer preying on your own people? Don't strain yourself pondering that. I do not know why the Arishok sent us. He commands and I go.
И как ты нашел?
A portion of it.
Каков же
Were
ответ?
you not at Ostagar when the army was overwhelmed? That is your answer.
Чё Кунари так
Why do you?
беспокоит? А, я отвечал. Наверное, потому что уничтожить
Do you
мир.
think the Kunari live on some other world then?
Ну что, тебе нужно вернуться?
Yes.
Ну ты здесь.
I cannot go home.
Почему?
It doesn't matter now. Can we move on? We keep the Darkspawn waiting.
Я хотел поговорить.
Speak then.
Хватит.
Then I suggest we move on.
У меня вопрос.
I am hardly surprised. Very well.
Уже нет вопроса.
As you wish.
Может, еще
Yes.
такое есть?
Speak then. Then I suggest we move on. I am hardly surprised. Very well. As you wish.
Ой, душилка с ним, конечно, жесткая. Давайте с Шульяной поговорим.
Yes? Well, here I am.
Что же такая, как ты, могла делать? в
What is
материнской
meant
церкви?
by someone like me?
Ну, красивая.
And there were no beautiful, charming women in the cloisters, you think? You would be wrong. There were many lovely young initiates in the Lothering cloister, all of them chaste and virtuous. It added to their mystique, because then they were forbidden, and forbidden fruit is the sweeter, no?
Не поверишь, что эти посвященные были.
Flatterer. I, however, did not take vows, and so perhaps I am not as enigmatic. The Chantry provides succor and safe harbor to all who seek it. I chose to stay and become affirmed.
Послушница.
We affirm our belief in the Maker, in Andraste and the chant, but other than that, there are no vows taken.
А почему?
The Chantry does not pride, and you should. I desired time apart from the world. I was a traveling minstrel in Orlais. Tales and songs were my life. I performed, and they rewarded me with applause and coin. And my skill in battle? Well, you pick up different skills when you travel, yes? Yes, of course. Let's move on.
О, кто-то сгорел.
Yes? Something you need? Yes? What's on your mind?
Это твое
I knew
видение.
this would come up sooner or later. I don't know how to explain, but I had a dream. In it, there was an impenetrable darkness. It was so dense, so real. And there was a noise, a terrible, ungodly noise. I stood on a peak and watched as the darkness consumed everything. And when the storm swallowed the last of the sun's light, I fell. And the darkness drew me in.
И что, тебе приснился
I
мор?
suppose I did. That was what the darkness was, no? When I woke, I went to the Chantry's gardens, as I always do. But that day, the rose bush in the corner had flowered. Everyone knew that bush was dead. It was grey and twisted and gnarled, the ugliest thing you ever saw. But there it was, a single beautiful rose. It was as though the Maker stretched out his hand to say, even in the midst of this darkness, there is hope and beauty. Have faith.
Почему ты хотел
In my
помочь?
dream, I fell. Oh, Maybe I jumped. I'd do anything to stop the blight. I know that we can do it. There are so many good things in the Maker's world. How can I sit by while the blight devours everything?
Пожалуй, ты прав.
That is why you're a Grey Warden. Come, there's a blight to stop.
Это правда.
Yes? Something you need? Yes? What's on your mind?
Почему ты решил отправиться в
My
Ферелду?
mother was from Denerim, and I consider myself a Ferelden. Mother served an Orlesian noblewoman who lived here when Orlais ruled. When Orlais was defeated and the common folk began to resent the presence of any Orlesian, the lady returned to Orlais. She took my mother with her. I was born in Orlais and did not set foot in Ferelden till much later. Mother was always telling me stories of her homeland. I think she missed it.
Что же
Mother
случилось?
died when I was very young. Lady Cecily let me stay with her. I had no one else. She was quite old then, and she had me study music and dance to entertain her. It is unfair that I have more memories of Cecily than my mother.
Ничего удивительного.
Strangely, the only thing I really remember of Mother was her scent. She kept dried flowers in her closet amongst her clothes. Small white Ferelden wildflowers with a sweet fragrance. Mother called them Andrastis Grace. They were very rare in Orlais. But enough about that.
Вот,
Let
надо-
us
вот
move
что
on.
надо искать подарки.
Yes? Something you need?
Да,
Yes?
поговорить.
What's on your mind?
Ты тоскуешь почему-нибудь?
I miss Valroyaux. Unlike other cities where the people are the lifeblood and the character, Valroyaux was her own person, and her people little more than decorations. There was always music in Valroyaux, streaming from the many windows, quiet refrains and triumphant choruses, and always, floating above that all, the chant, coming from the Grand Cathedral. It was magnificent.
Арзамар тоже прекрасен.
Yes, I'm sure it is. But every city has a different personality. It is hard to describe. You have to be there. Of course, there are good things and bad things about Orlais, like anywhere else. Sometimes I miss it dearly, and sometimes I'm glad I'm rid of it. And you will laugh at this, but I miss the fine things I had in Orlais.
Что это?
Dresses, fine dresses and furs, and shoes, of course. One can't mingle with nobility with bad shoes, you see. Orlais is very fashionable, almost ridiculously so. But the shoes, living with those ridiculous trends was worth it for the shoes.
О, я тоже люблю.
When I left Orlais, the fashion was shoes with
скобочках
delicate
нет.
tapered heels and embellishments in the front. A ribbon, perhaps, or embroidery. In soft colors, of course. It was spring.
Звучит очень.
I had my eye on a pair my shoemaker was working on. It was covered in pale blue silk with amber beads on the toe. The shoes made in Orlais were exquisite. Not at all like these clunky fur-lined leather boots you have in Ferelden. Ugh, just look at them.
О, ты прекрасная и без
Thank
них.
you. It's kind of you to say so, even wearing these mud-covered horrors. They're sturdy shoes, but sometimes a girl just wants to have pretty feet. Oh, I could talk about shoes all day, but we have things to do, don't we?
Фу, слава богу.
Yes? Something you need? Yes? What's on your mind?
Ты была бы рада, чем Менстрелян, наверное, тебе есть что
Of
рассказать.
course I do. I love stories far too much to keep them to myself. Everyone should be able to benefit from them, I think.
Мгм. Расскажи мне про рождение.
Chantry Law says it is man's pride that created the Darkspawn. In ages past, the mages of the Tevinder Imperium ruled much of the world we know. In their pride, they thought their magics invincible and imagined that they were greater than the Maker himself. So thinking, they invaded his golden city, planning to take it for themselves and depose their own creator. But they were impure and full of sin. And it is with the sin that they tainted the golden city, corrupting it forever. The Maker cursed them and cast them from his sight. Wherever they went, they spread the taint of their sin. Any land that was touched by the taint became blighted and would suffer no life. Instead, the Darkspawn arose to torment us and remind us of her hubris.
Давай, Орлись.
Of course, Orlesians enjoy telling stories. I shall tell you my favorite tale of Aveline, the Knight of Olay.
Go.
A long time ago, a girl child was born to a farmer. He had hoped for a son, not a daughter, and so he told his wife to abandon the child in the woods. Before the cold could claim her, the baby was found by a tribe of Dalish elves who took pity on the poor mewling thing and raised her as their own. Aveline, for that is what they called her, grew strong and quick and clever under the guidance of the elves. She learned to wield the sword as well as any man, could kill a deer with an arrow at 100 paces, and was as graceful on the back of a horse as she was on foot.
Go.
Aveline's Dalish guardians saw that she could easily best any Orlesian chevalier in battle, and wanted to show the cruel humans the child they had left to die. They bestowed upon her a fine horse and armor, and sent her to prove herself to her people in the grand tourney. Now in those days, no woman was allowed to take up arms, let alone compete in the grand tourney, but Aveline kept her helmet on and was not discovered. Aveline won many events and gained the approval of the adoring crowd. Eventually, she came face to face with the knight Kaleva in the grand melee. Aveline had already bested him in the joust, and Kaleva was determined not to lose a second time. Out of desperation to regain his honor, Kaleva tripped Aveline and tossed her to the ground, ripping off her helmet as he did so. Silence fell upon the arena as Aveline was revealed. Kaleva declared the previous competitions invalid. A woman had taken part, and this was not allowed. But the crowd cheered for Aveline. Kaleva was furious, for he had lost to a woman and was now being shamed. Blinded by his rage, he forced Aveline to her knees. "Know your place, woman," cried he, and slit her throat. The son of the king, Prince Freyan, was present. He recognized Aveline's skill and bravery and began to see the injustice done to the women in his land. When he was made king, he rewrote the laws of Olay so that women could also become chevalier. He honored Aveline and knighted her after her death. And to this day, any female who is knighted reveres Aveline the Brave, for she is the patron of all women chevalier.
Давай Ферелденск.
I know one, told to me by my mother a long time ago. It always chilled me to the bone. Maybe you have heard of Flemeth?
Ну, я встречался.
Are you sure? Was she the Flemeth of legend? Flemeth, the devourer of men? Flemeth, mother of witches? Flemeth, demon-touched, who dwells in the mists?
Ну, да.
Ferelden mothers scare their daughters with talk of Flemeth. They say that if you're bad, Flemeth will spirit you away and bind you to her forever. They also say that Flemeth mourns her lost beauty and will steal yours through your looking glass if she catches you.
Короче, расскажи мне историю.
Flemeth's beauty was known throughout the land. She had hair like unto a moonless night, skin as pale as winter's first snow, and eyes as beautiful and perilous as the sea. When she came of age, she came to the attention of the Lord of Highever, Conobar, and he took her for his wife. Conobar soon learned that his young bride had the gift of magic. He kept this a secret, for he feared that she would be taken from him. Flemeth stayed with Conobar for some years, and with his blessing, she practiced her art. And then one day, a young poet named Osen came to the castle. Flemeth was captivated by Osen's voice, and he by her beauty, and they fell in love. Flemeth longed to be with her true love, and she and Osen fled from Conobar's lands, seeking refuge in the Kokari wilds with the Chasing tribes. They lived there happily for many a year, till the day Flemeth received news that Conobar was dying and longed to see her face one last time. Flemeth's heart swelled with pity for the man who once was her husband, and begged Othin to return to Konobar's side with her. But when Flemeth and Othin entered Highever, they were captured by Konobar's men, and Othin was slain in front of Flemeth's eyes. Flemeth was imprisoned in the highest tower of the castle, there to await Konobar's judgment on her. Distraught at the loss of her love, Flemeth plotted revenge against her husband. She summoned a fey demon, intending for it to wreak vengeance on Konobar. But a spell went awry. The demon possessed Flemeth. Turning her into an abomination, the halls of the castle ran red with blood as Flemeth slaughtered Konobar and all his men. The last of Flemeth's humanity melted away, and at dawn, she stole back to the wilds to plot and scheme for 100 years. They say she took to her side many chastened men, and with their help, begat her daughter witches, who even now prowl the dark places of the Kokari wilds.
Да, другую.
Which one?
Что-нибудь одолеть.
I have heard a little about how the elves gained their freedom from the Tevinter Imperium. When Andraste began her exalted march against the Imperium, the elves joined her cause to fight their masters. The great elven leader, Shatan, born in captivity, rose up to lead his people. He foresaw a future where the elves were free. Shatan was killed when Andraste was betrayed, but the elves continued to fight, eventually breaking free of the Imperium. The elves claimed the Dales in the south and settled there in the land of their own.
Это длилось
The
недолго.
elves lived in the Dales for centuries. They resurrected the worship of the elven gods and would allow the building of no chantry. This angered the chantry, and the hostility between the two factions finally broke out in open war. The chantry says the elves struck first, but I do not know whether to believe it. The chantry declared a wholly exalted march against the elves, named for Andraste's similar march against Tevinter. During the exalted march of the Dales, the elven cities were sacked, and the elven state completely dissolved. Some of the elves bitterly accepted their fates and surrendered to human rule, living in the human cities as second-class citizens. But others, still fiercely proud of their heritage, refused to bow to the humans, and instead became homeless wanderers. They were the elves of the Dales, the Dalish.
Что известно об Андрасте?
Andraste was the Maker's chosen. The Maker had long since abandoned the world when the sound of her singing turned his ear. Beauty, grace, and wisdom enraptured him, and he offered to take her from this flawed world to become his divine bride. But Andraste had an earthly husband and would not forsake him. Instead, she beseeched the Maker to return to his people once more. So earnest was her plea that the Maker was moved, and promised that he would create a paradise on earth if all abandoned their false gods and turned once more to him. And this is why Andraste began her exalted march on the idolaters of the Tevinter Imperium. The Maker granted her his powers with which to smite her enemies. Andraste brought the Imperium to its knees, and her victories converted many to the worship of the Maker.
Как умерла?
Alas, it was the frailties of men that betrayed and killed Andraste. Her earthly husband, Maferath, a chieftain of the Alamari tribes himself, grew jealous as his wife's popularity and influence overshadowed his own. She was also revered as the Maker's betrothed, and Maferath began to see their own bond waning in significance as Andraste became ever more devoted to the Maker. Out of envy and spite, Maferath made a pact with the Archon Hysarion of Tevinter, allowing his beloved Andraste to be ambushed and captured. Andraste was burned at the stake in Minrathous, the capital of Tevinter.
Ну, в Твинтер же есть церковь.
The Tevinter Chantry claims that in Andraste's last moments, Hysarion's heart softened, and he heard the voice of the Maker telling him to end her suffering. He plunged his sword into her heart, and as her blood washed over his hands, he became one of the faithful. Dissenters said that the Archon only converted because he could not stem the tide of Andraste's cult, and was forced to do so to stay in power. We will never know for sure.
Давай-ка двинемся дальше.
Yes? Something you need? Yes? What's on your mind?
Говорят, в Орлемен
Why did you
стрельбой
hear this?
шпионами. Я читал в книге.
And did you not think that this could be historical fact and no longer true? Not all minstrels are spies. Most are just singers and storytellers. But some of them are what we call bards.
Значит, барды шпион.
Bards are minstrels and more. Spies, as you say. Some say there is a bard order, but I don't think this is true. Many bards work alone or in small groups, doing the bidding of a patron who pays for their services. If there is an organization behind it all, no one knows who they are.
Патроны. это кто?
Nobles mostly. In Orlais, there is much rivalry amongst the highborn. They fight over land, influence, and the favor of the empress. But they cannot do this openly because it is impolite, and in public, they wear smiling faces and pretend to be civil. In secret, they plot and scheme to destroy each other. It is a game completely meaningless to anyone but its players.
А ты была
I
баб.
have revealed too much, it seems, but it doesn't matter what I used to be. It is the past.
Ну почему же ты жила в монастыре?
I found myself in Ferelden and sheltered from bad weather in the Chantry. And when the storm passed, I just did not want to leave. I like to see the Maker brought me here.
Задолжил. Ты чё задолжил-то,
Something you need?
Ты можешь делать напад?
That's an idea. I've watched you, and I do think you'd find some of my skills quite easy to pick up. Let's just go over there, away from the others, for safety, yes? I expect there shall be daggers flying about willy-nilly for a time. Yes? Something you need? Yes? What's on your mind?
Ни о чём. Так, Алистер.
What do you need?
Хочешь поговорить об
You don't have
этом?
to do that. I know you didn't know him as long as I did.
Я знаю, он был тебе как
I-
отец.
I should have handled it better. Duncan warned me right from the beginning that this could happen. Any of us could die in battle. I shouldn't have lost it, not when so much is riding on us, not with the blight and everything. I'm sorry.
Не за что.
I'd like to have a proper funeral for him. Maybe once this is all done, if we're still alive. I don't think he had any family to speak of.
Да у него был
I
ты.
suppose he did. It probably sounds stupid, but part of me wishes I was with him, in the battle. I feel like I abandoned him.
Но он тебя спас.
Yes, I know. I think he came from High Ever, or so he said. Maybe I'll go up there sometime. See about putting up something in his honor. I don't know. Dwarves don't practice cremation, do they? How do your people honor your dead?
Мы хороним мертвых в камне.
I heard about that, now that I think about it. Their spirits return to the rock, strengthening the foundation of the Tig. It sounds so strange.
Ну, не более
I
необычно.
suppose you're right. Thank you. Really, I mean it. It was good to talk about it, at least a little.
Всегда рад помочь. О, плюс 4.
What do you need? Ask away.
Го болтать. Шо могут
Essentially, they're
храмовники?
trained to fight. The Chantry would tell you that the Templars exist simply to defend. But don't let them fool you. They're an army. The other main purpose for a Templar is, of course, to hunt mages. To that end, we train in talents that drain mana and disrupt spells.
Бля, уже целый час диалогов, господи. Вот эта игра, я понимаю. Раз другие люди не могут научиться тому, что умеют
Perhaps,
храмовники.
but there usually isn't much of an opportunity. The Chantry keeps a close rein on its Templars. We are given lyrium to help develop our magical talents, you see. Which means we become addicted. And since the Chantry controls the lyrium trade with the dwarves, well, I'm sure you can put
Не, у
two
меня
and two
плохо с
together.
математикой. Что это значит? Отлично.
You think so, huh? You don't need lyrium in order to learn the Templar talents. Lyrium just makes Templar's talents more effective, or so I was told. Maybe it doesn't even do that. The Chantry usually doesn't let their Templars get away either, so they can spread their secrets. I'm a bit of an exception. Lucky me.
Lucky you. Минус 10. Ну за
What do you need?
шо?
Ask away.
Можешь обучить других?
I suppose I could. But I really would rather not. When the Grand Cleric let Duncan recruit me, she made me swear never to reveal Templar secrets outside of the Chantry.
Нытик.
I'd rather not go back on my word. Ask me later, perhaps. Maybe I'll change my mind. This is not something small you're asking, after all. What do you need? Ask away,
Tell me about
such as they
Grey
are.
Где поблизости?
That's a good question. There's plenty in Orlais, but who knows where they might be found. And the nearest Orlesian city is weeks away. If we go north and cross the sea, there's bound to be some in the Free Marches. Again, however, I just don't know where. I don't know anything about Grey Wardens in other lands.
В Серых Стражей есть что вроде штаба?
Here in Ferelden, there's our compound in Denerim at the palace, but that's it. Loghain will have control over that and be watching it, no doubt. Beyond that, the only place I know of is Weishaupt Fortress. That's the headquarters of all Grey Wardens in the Anderfells, 1,000 miles from here. But I've no idea how to even contact them. So unless we try to get back to the compound in Denerim, I suppose the answer is no. There's nowhere for us to go.
Нас осталось только двое.
I imagine that eventually the Grey Wardens outside of Ferelden will wonder what's happened. Why there's no contact from Duncan or someone. They'll send someone eventually. Though who knows what Loghain's people in Denerim will tell them. Maybe they won't send anyone. We could try to contact them. But that would mean leaving Ferelden, and even if we did, they couldn't come back with us in time to stop the Blight. So that means whatever happens, it's up to us.
Нам придется останавливать
I mean-
Орден.
Eventually, we would have to use the joining to make more Grey Wardens, right? But I don't know how to do the joining, or what's involved. I know it involves lyrium and some other magic, and that it's really difficult to prepare, but that's it. Unless we can find out more about the joining, I guess we better get used to the idea that there might only be two of us for now. Until more come from elsewhere.
А что будет, если он просто уйдет?
Just left? You mean just left Ferelden? I don't know. If there's an archdemon, however, we're supposed to be the only ones who can defeat it. And that means the Blight would grow unchecked. Eventually, other Grey Wardens in Orlais and other lands would hear about it, and they would come to fight it, but they wouldn't come in time to save Ferelden. There's no way. I'm not going anywhere. About the Grey Wardens, anyhow. Fair enough. What do you need? Ask away.
Как ты стал серым
Same way you
стражем?
did. You drink some blood, you choke on it, and pass out. You haven't forgotten already, have you?
Я про
Let's
историю.
see. I was in the Chantry before. I trained for many years to become a Templar, in fact. That's where I learned most of my skills.
В каких умениях?
Well, it wasn't an easy life, you know. I don't know whether or not you've noticed, but I'm not exactly the Chantry type. The Grand Cleric didn't want to let me go. Duncan was forced to conscript me, actually, and was she ever furious when he did? I thought she was going to have us both arrested. I was lucky.
Почему?
I wondered that myself. It's not as if she valued me highly. I think she just didn't want to give anything to the Grey Wardens, is all. The Chantry didn't lose much. And I think I can do more fighting the Blight anyhow, rather than sitting in a temple somewhere. I'll always be thankful to Duncan for recruiting me. If it hadn't been for him,
всё,
you
не
know,
плачь.
I wouldn't have.
Mon good
He
man.
was. A good man who didn't deserve his fate. That much I'm sure of. Come on, let's go. I think I'm done talking.
Я он чуть не заплакал.
What do you
Что
need?
такое?
Ask away.
Тебя вырастил Эрл
Did
М.
I say that? I meant that dogs raised me. Giant slobbering dogs from the Anderfels. A whole pack of them, in fact.
Так, а Флеминг что ты сказал?
Well, if you're going to go and pay attention to the facts, then fine. Let's see, how do I explain this? I'm a bastard. And before you make any smart comments, I mean the fatherless kind. My mother was a serving girl in Redcliffe Castle who died when I was very young. Al Eamon wasn't my father, but he took me in anyhow and put a roof over my head. He was good to me, and he didn't have to be. I respect the man, and I don't blame him anymore for sending me off to the Chantry once I was old enough.
Значит, ты
I
знаешь,
know
кто
who I
он?
was told was my father. He died even before my mother did, anyhow. It isn't important. Al Eamon eventually married a young woman from Orlais, which caused all sorts of problems between him and the king because it was so soon after the war. But he loved her. Anyhow, the new Arlessa resented the rumors which pegged me as his bastard. They weren't true, but of course they existed. The Arl didn't care, but she did. So off I was packed to the nearest monastery at age 10, just as well. The Arlessa made sure the castle wasn't a home to me by that point. She despised me.
Ну, там же ничего такого.
Probably. It was just a kindness he did to a woman who had served him anyway. I didn't sleep on silk sheets in the keep or anything. I remember I had an amulet with Andraste's holy symbol on it. The only thing I had of my mother's. I was so furious at being sent away, I tore it off and threw it at the wall and it shattered. Stupid thing to do. The Arl came by the monastery a few times to see how I was, but I was stubborn. I hated it there, and blamed him for everything. And eventually, he just stopped coming.
Думаешь... А, может, он твой отец?
Yes, I'm quite sure. At any rate, I don't look anything like him, you'll see for yourself. Not that it stopped the rumors any. All I know is that the Arl is a good man, and well loved by the people. He also was King Caelan's uncle, so he has a personal motivation to see Loghain pay for what he did. Anyway, that's really all there is to the story.
Что-то мутит там.
What do you need? Ask away.
Почему же ты остался
Have you
хромонком,
seen the
если не видишь?
uniform? It's not only stylish, but well made. I'm a sucker for good tailoring.
Что
I keep it
такое?
hidden under my pillow. Sometimes I'll take it out just so I can hug it fondly and remember the good old days. Brings a tear to the eyes, you know. I'd use my shield if I could, but I think you might actually spot me hiding behind it. You don't really want to know about my being a Templar, do you? It's really quite boring.
Да я хочу.
Poke, poke, poke. Tell me everything about your life, Alistair. All right, if you insist. It's not like we have anything better to do, right? The truth of the matter is that I did hate going to the monastery. The initiates from poor families thought I put on airs, while the noble ones called me a bastard and ignored me. I felt like Al Eamon had cast me off, unwanted, and I was determined to be bitter. But I took some solace in the training itself, I guess. I was actually quite good at it.
И что же тебе понравилось?
The education, mostly, but also the discipline. You need to have a disciplined mind in order to use the abilities we have. It was difficult, but rewarding. I never really felt at home anywhere, though, until I joined the Grey Wardens. And Duncan felt my Templar abilities might be useful for when we encountered Darkspawn magic, so I kept it up. What about you? Do you have anywhere you consider home?
Ну... Арзамар.
But it's not your home anymore, right? You can never go back for good. I think I understand how you feel. We won't always be traveling like this, you know. Once the war is over, once the Blight is... well... a time will come when we'll have to think about having a real home again. Though that seems like a far ways off. And I suppose
Да, ты прав.
the Grey Wardens are gone for good. Either way.
Если мы
You're
вообще
right.
останемся в живых.
Best to concentrate on what we have to do right now.
Все-таки в этой игре душевные диалоги, озвучка Алистера
What
на
do you
английском просто отлично.
Ask away. Such as they are. What do you need?
Так, ну остался Advanced.
Oh, why, you little?
Что случилось?
Your furry friend here took offense at me getting near his food. He snapped at me, look.
Ну, вообще-то он сторожевой пес.
Sometimes I forget that he's a war dog. That'll teach me.
Во-во.
I once heard a really old legend about how the hound warriors in the days of the old tribes would feed their Mabari the flesh of the vanquished. Well, that's what I heard anyway. It would sometimes be human flesh. Oh, like you can tell the difference. For all you know, maybe you've already been fed something. Someone.
Затроллили песик. Только
Look
пса
what
и
your
может.
fool dog placed in my pack. A putrid, half-eaten hare is not something a woman wants to find in her unmentionables.
О-о-о. Он испортил твои трусики.
Maybe, but that is not the point. The dirty mongrel can have this back. There. And tell him not to do it again.
Шутка про трусики.
I don't
кайф.
want it, you worthless fur bag.
Думаю, ты
Oh,
сказал.
he's just trying to be manipulative, I can tell. I do it too.
Это классно.
I seek to understand the dog. We fight alongside each other, and I must discover the strength of his heart. You are a true warrior and worthy of respect.
Молодец. Ну, копай, копай. Может, найдем золото. Все. Совсем поболтали, целых 1,5 часа на это ушло. Но теперь можно
Yes.
Indeed.
Indeed.
пойти. Ну, в Гослукеров перевал. DLC квесты надо пройти, а потом пойдем по сюжету. Феликс.
You'll have to forgive me if I seem a bit nervous. Not many people travelling in this part of Ferelden. Of course, that's part of my problem, isn't it? Mule got spooked by a wisp and ran off into the woods. Now what do I do?
Просишь найти меня тоже?
Oh, no, I sent the elf to do that. I wouldn't dream of asking a stranger to do it. Allow me to introduce myself. Felix de Grosbois, merchant and entrepreneur at your service.
Я Серк
A
Страж.
Grey Warden? That's quite impressive, isn't it? My word. I don't normally take this route, but with the war, I was hoping for a bit of luck and good weather in the mountains. Sadly, I've had neither. Ugh, this trip has been one miserable disaster after another. I don't suppose you'd consider helping a fellow out?
Шо помочь?
Of all the other things that went wrong, the worst is this artifact I brought in Jada. It's a control rod, I'm told, for a golem. No point in me keeping it, however, as I'll never get to use it. But, maybe you could?
Сколько ты
Nothing.
занимаешь?
I just don't want to have to lug around something that might be taken for a gemstone by some bandit. To be honest, I don't even know if it'll be useful to you. I paid too much to simply throw it away.
Для чего
The
оно?
dwarf I brought it from said it activates and controls a golem. So long as you have it in your hand, the golem does what you say. Might be useful, no? I mean, you look like the sort who could use one, yes?
В чем подвох?
The catch? Yeah, I suppose it is a catch, isn't it? The catch is that the golem didn't come with the rod. It's supposed to be down in a village down south, waiting to be activated. Even if I could get down there, which I can't, I understand the place has been overrun by darkspawn. But you're a Grey Warden, however. Darkspawn aren't an issue for you, are they?
Да. Откуда знать?
The fellow I brought it from is a long-standing contact. He didn't want to come to Ferelden, however, with all our troubles. He said he got it from the man who owned this golem. But to be honest, I have no idea if it will work. Hence the low price. What do you say?
Ну ладно, да.
Just as well. As I mentioned before, you'll find the golem down south, in a town called Honleath. I'll mark it here on your map. Just hold up the rod and say Dulaf Gar. That will wake the golem up, so I'm told. I hope it works.
Если не сработает, я
Right,
вернусь.
well, then I really hope it works. Best of luck to you then. Now, I guess it's up to me to find that mule myself.
Давай еще.
All right.
Эльфийский корень. Ну все, погнали в эту деревню. Гунлет. Удаленная деревня, где якобы призывает старый голем, дожидаясь, пока для него сыщется новый хозяин. Ой, битва. Малой энкаунтер с ордой.
How did a child survive that? The crater is still smoking. It's a boy. 5 fingers, 5 toes. That's all that matters to me. The Maker has answered our prayers. Let's go home, Marta, and raise the tyke as our own.
Метеоритная руда. Ну, это еще отсылка на Супермена была, если кто не понял. Там у него мама тоже Марта зовут, и он тоже прилетел на эту фигню.
Going.
Так, тактики проверим. Стэн Драчу, Лилиана Лучник. Мориган Норик. Ген Локи. Ген Локи Go next.
More darkspawn.
Ну,
All right.
так, спал. Ты хочешь, я постоянно танцую.
Not bad.
Я этого Стэна уже убил. И меня убили. Но урон нет. Вернее, урон есть, но это...
So be it. I shall do it.
Пока только Норик отлично.
I never liked this part.
Концов. Нафиг ты оружие-то поменял? Сундук я не открою без ключа. Это я помню. Офигеть, как устану.
You will learn to fear me.
All right.
It's your time to die. Begin the onslaught. Run while you can.
Да хватит меня харась.
I need healing.
It's done.
Ключ от сундука.
On my way.
Что-то Стэн вообще не тянет. Мне казалось, он посильнее должен быть. Записка. Пока читать ничего не буду. Качаем магию. Тут энтропию вкачиваю. Что-то крутое. Теперь два крутых кинжала, только брони нет. Корзина с птичьим кормом.
It looks like a golem, doesn't it? An actual golem, and not a statue at all. I wonder how it ended up here of all places.
Дулевгар. Обманули. Можно в погреб спуститься. Дается кристалл.
Yes.
I never liked this part.
Море было. путаю. Давай, Стэн, держись, держись, мы вдвоем остались. Ты шо ж они как харасят? Не, походу ГГ. Так, надо от лучников заныкаться. Почему у меня не получается сплыт юзать? Не, урон, кстати, хорош. Сейчас у нас подкопится, полоткается. Пот. Гранат. О, выходим, выходим. Доджим, доджим, доджим. Ай, тут пройти нельзя. И пошел урон. Урон, урон, урон.
So, you have won the battle. A close thing.
Да, это реально клоус был очень. А чё, не танкуете ничего? Каши с вами не сваришь. О, Вильгельмова особое пиво. Может будет... Наверное, Вильгельм. Так, тут еще, наверное, жесть будет, учитывая сколько тут врагов. Тут, насколько я помню, есть маг. Или нет? Зачем ты опять взяла эту херню в руки? Что за тупая? Опять она вот с этой фигней. Я понял, зачем. Влияние надо поставить дистанционно. Гайс, подождите. Письмо почитаем. Все.
By the Maker, we're saved!
Да, 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 я.
You weren't sent by the ban, were you? To save us?
Я ищу хозяина.
The statue outside? Why would... Oh, I think I see. You bought the control rod, didn't you? You came here looking for Shale.
А чё, у меня рука же ниже, алло.
That damnable golem brought us nothing but trouble. My mother sold the rod years ago after it killed my father, and good riddance.
Голем убил твоего отца.
My father's name was Wilhelm, mage to the Isles of Redcliffe and a hero in the war against Orlais. And what did he get? One day, my mother found him outside the tower, with so many broken bones she could barely recognize him, and Shale standing over him just like it is now. My father deserved better than that. But if you really want to wake Shale up, well, it's yours now.
Что расскажешь?
My
про
mother
голема?
never talked about it much. I was just a small child when my father died. Look, I know you probably have more important things on your mind, but I really need your help. I know you already saved my life, and I'm grateful, but my daughter is inside the laboratory. She was afraid and ran too far in before I could stop her. I don't know how she made it past my father's defenses. One of the men tried to go after her. He was killed, but you could find her, couldn't you?
Почем
I
знаешь, что она здесь?
don't, it's true. I'm terrified that something's happened to her and she's lying in there, injured. I can't leave here until I know for certain. Surely you can understand that.
Что убил?
There are defenses my father put down here to keep strangers out. I knew about the barrier, I had the key for that, but the rest of it, well, we never came down here. Ever.
Кстати, мне
You risked yourself to get here, didn't you? It's just a little further. That shouldn't be difficult for someone like you.
Он намекает, что я карлик. Я хочу знать,
How
как
to
жить голем.
activate it? We just used the control rod and the code phrase. Or did Mother give them the wrong one? I wouldn't be surprised. She said she never wanted to see Shale activated again. If so, I'll gladly tell you the proper phrase. Just save my little girl, I'm begging you.
Ладно.
You will? Thank the Maker! My father's laboratory is just past the next area, I think. She has to be there. Why won't she come back, or at least yell out?
Что ты можешь сказать мне о
Not
защитниках?
really. We never came down here after my father died. My mother was too frightened. The barrier was supposed to keep most people out, and those who got past it dealt with whatever lies ahead. I can only imagine what my father was doing that he needed to be so careful. I'm not sure I want to know.
Что ты помнишь про голема?
Almost nothing. It used to be bigger, I think. Aside from that, it was just a walking statue. Father said it talked, but I never heard it. Mother tried to have it destroyed, but no luck. I think that's when she sold the rod, but no one ever came to claim it.
Расскажи мне о Вильгельме.
I was so young when he died, I hardly remember. All I know is he was a fine mage and a healer. What he needed this laboratory for, or why the Circle of Magi let him be out here, I honestly have no idea.
Посмотрим.
Please hurry!
Ну, го.
Going. All right.
Oh, this should be nice.
Ой-ой-ой. Что с уроном?
Let's make this quick. You forced our hand.
Ух ты. А где урон? Почему по нему вообще урон-то не проходит?
Let's make this quick.
Я вообще не понимаю, что происходит.
You forced our hand.
Ну, по нему тупо урон не происходит. Ладно, понятно. Пиз... Ё-моё.
So be it.
Let's do this quick, shall we?
You'll make
А чё они ко мне пристали? Отстаньте от меня. Э,
I am ready. I see. I shall do it. Very well.
Вот штраф ловкости, дальше плохо. Что за кольцо? О. Это я хочу.
Going.
Ладно, погнали дальше.
What do you mean you've never
А,
climbed a tree?
Китти.
Oh, look, someone's come to play. You have come to play, haven't you? We're playing a guessing game. It's better with more people.
Отлично, ты же.
Father? Oh, you can tell him I'm fine. Maybe he'll come and stay with us, too. Anyway, you should go if you're not going to play. Kitty finds you distracting.
Амалия Коу.
I can't go. Kitty says she can't come, and I'm not leaving her. She'd be lonely.
You are so kind, Amalia. I would miss you dearly if you left.
На самом
Of
деле
course
это
she's a cat. She just talks, that's all.
Talking is simple enough, once you know how.
Oh,
Думаю,
bug
это...
whistles. You're just no fun. I'm going to ignore you now.
Nothing you say will convince Amalia to go with you. She loves only me now. I am her friend, while you are just a stranger.
Что ты за...
I have done nothing. I am all but powerless. The mage made sure of that, didn't he? I cannot leave this chamber. No, Amalia found me. After decades of isolation, her company is... welcome. It seems we are at an impasse, so let me propose a compromise of sorts. Release me, mortal, and let me have the girl. Let us return to her father and leave this place forever.
Думаешь,
Mortals
он
often allow themselves to be blinded by hope. They see what they wish to see. If the father hopes to see his Amalia alive and unharmed, perhaps he will.
Ну,
Thank you.
наврём.
You are very gracious. The mage's wards hold me within this chamber, and only a mortal may approach them. There is a trick to disarming the wards, but I do not know it. Perhaps you will succeed where the girl failed.
Oh, this is so exciting. Kitty is going to be free. I've always wanted a cat, and
О,
Kitty is so
игра в
perfect and
пятнашки,
pretty.
господи, за что?
And I'm off. Yes,
I like it when Kitty sings to me.
and I'm off. And I'm off. Going. Yes.
Почему оно так пошло?
Father doesn't like cats, but he never met Kitty.
Что-то не так.
Kitty says Grandpa Wilhelm locked her up in this room. Isn't that awful?
Going.
Так вот по-любому должно быть, что нужно туда выходить. Вот так вот. Значит, тут должно быть вот так вот. Да?
Kitty is my best friend.
And I'm off.
I was thinking about the sun, silly.
All right.
О, изи. Изи пятнашечка.
I can feel the magic fading. Oh, I had forgotten how it feels not to be caged.
Kitty? What's happening?
A wonderful thing, my dear, for both of us.
Я сказал, что освобожу тебя, но не сказал, что оставлю в живых.
You will not take the girl. She is mine.
Kitty! You're scaring me! I won't let you inside me! I won't!
Inside me. Ой-ой-ой. Организовал. А чё-то больно.
You forced our hand. I suppose
Да, тут больше ничего нет. Тяжко.
it's finished. Sometimes. As you wish. I never liked this part. I need to rest. To me, pretty thing. Make a preserver.
Не, ну без Моргана вообще не пройти было.
Healing would be helpful now.
О, какой-то шлем. Так на все 20 сил требуется. Но, в принципе, мы справились. Кто-то орёт. Победа.
Yes.
All right.
Да не я там хуй.
Defeated. Victorious.
Да, Марикон Виктория.
You did it! You freed her! Thank you so much!
I'm sorry I ran away, Daddy. I was so scared.
It's all right, Butterfly. You're safe now. All the bad creatures are gone. The phrase to activate Shale is Dulan Han. If you still want that bloody thing. I wouldn't if I were you. Now we should go, and quickly. Thank you again. We owe you our lives.
Да. Знаете, это мой долг. Как серого стража, помогать всем. Такой, кстати, фри-вход был. Дуленхард.
I knew that the day would come when someone would find the control rod. And not even a mage this time. Probably stumbled across the rod by accident, I suppose. Typical.
Откуда ты знаешь?
It thinks these crystals are simply for show, I see. Huh. I stood here in this spot and watched the wretched little villagers scurry around me for, oh, I have no idea how long. Many, many years.
Oh, you poor dear. That would be really, really boring.
Then one wonders that you wouldn't be grateful to the one who allowed you to stretch your legs, Gollum.
Another mage, I see. Charming. I was just beginning to get used to the quiet, too. Tell me, are all the villagers dead?
Ну, не все.
Some got away, then. How unfortunate.
У тебя есть имя?
Perhaps. I may have forgotten after all the years of being called Gollum. Gollum, fetch me that chair. Do be a good Gollum and squash that insipid bandit. And let's not forget, Gollum, pick me up. I tire of walking. It does have the control rod, doesn't it? I am awake, so it must.
Да.
I see the control rod, yet I feel... Go on, order me to do something.
Пойдем.
And, nothing. I feel nothing. I feel no compulsion to carry out its command. I suppose this means the rod is... broken?
Его можно?
I don't know. I thought the rod simply was. It certainly worked well enough to reanimate me. I suppose if I can't be commanded, this means I have free will, yes? It is simply... what should I do? I have no memories beyond watching this village for so long. I have no purpose. I find myself at a bit of a loss. What about it? It must have awoken me for some reason, no? What did it intend to do with me?
Ну, лично Голем мне пригодится.
May I ask what sorts of things it gets up to for which I could be so potentially useful?
Я серый страж.
It refers to the Darkspawn, the very creatures that destroyed this village. The Darkspawn are an evil that must be destroyed, it's true. Though not as evil as the birds. Damnable feathered fiends. I suppose I have two options, do I not? Go with it or go elsewhere? I do not even know what lies beyond this village.
Ты намерен и дальше называть меня?
Yes, very likely.
Что ты хочешь?
I watched this village for so long, unable to move or act. My memories of anything before are vague at best. So I have no idea what I want to do. I'm glad to be mobile. Is that not enough?
Ты убил своего прежнего.
Did I? I remember that I had a former master. The mage with the furry brows who poked and prodded and barked orders. Did I kill him? I hope I did kill him. Perhaps the last order he barked was, Gollum, stop crushing my head. Ah!
Вижу, ты...
Yes, I'm just funny that way.
Откуда я знаю, можно ли тебе?
I have no idea. How does it trust anything else without a control rod?
Хороший.
They haven't killed it yet. I consider this a good sign.
Можешь пойти?
I will follow it about then. For now. I am called Shale, by the way.
Это твое имя или
It would rather I was called Flint. Pebbles. How about rubble?
Vashaden.
Ой. Ой, ладно, гайс, на этом, я думаю, все. Сейчас придем в лагерь. Засейвимся. На следующем стриме продолжим проходить DLC квесты. Целый час диалогов, если честно, так томительно. Хз даже почему. Ну, это Dragon Age, я как-то от всего этого отвык. Вот. Всем спасибо, гайс. Приходите еще. Бай-бай.